do you have a topic that you would like to hit on today, or are we just
I
going to kind of
told
wing
you
it?
I have a topic I want to hit on. Did you not
Oh,
see that in
are you
there?
going to spring it on me? Or did you
I
tell me?
am going to spring it on you.
Oh, crap.
And the
Okay.
thing I want to talk about, uh,
Oh, hold on. Let's introduce this. Welcome to Pros Talking Prose. You are here with me, Stacey from Edits by Stacey LLC and Print to Pro. And then we've got Troy. Troy, who's here with the plot dude and the plotabides.com. He is the illustrious plotter. And I am
plotter.
I am the I am the mediocre editor who, teaches
Oh,
people how to shine in their publishing journey. Let's talk about why Stacey's losing her mind. I've had a couple of really crazy weeks. I'm so happy to be kind of like coming out of it. I feel like I'm coming back to the land of the living, but it was so funny and the timing is perfect. I don't know if you know this, but William Shatner did some, like, on the History Channel. He was doing some kind of TV show called, Mysteries of the Unknown or something, Unknown Mysteries or whatever.
mhm.
Anyway, for some reason or another, this TV show has shown up in my YouTube algorithm. And while I sleep, I all of a sudden woke up, like, kind of half awake, half asleep in the middle of the night last night, to William Shatner telling me about how zombies could be real. And I had a moment. I was sitting there going, Captain Kirk? And then I was like, wait, Kirk is telling me about zombies? Wait.
You're
And I
like,
had to
what's
wake,
happening?
yeah, like I had to wake up and I was
Like
like, am I
fully come to
dreaming?
wake.
What's happening?
Yeah,
And
he
then,
just played Captain Kirk. He just played Captain Kirk.
oh, he's not
Yeah,
really Captain Kirk.
yeah. I
Okay.
just wanted to.
Gotcha.
There was some confusion. I have a quick joke about this before you even get started, right? So I was talking to this friend of mine. I'm not going to tell anybody who they were because it's one of those moments where you could tell it was a moment where he just didn't make the connection. And we were talking about Oppenheimer and Chris Nolan and some of his
Right,
stuff,
right,
because of
right.
course I think Oppenheimer is terrible.
Yeah.
But the other movie that I think is not great that everybody seems to like, well, not everybody, but is Dunkirk.
Oh, well, my
And
friend
so
loved Dunkirk.
I made the comment that I was still very disappointed that Dunkirk was not a biopic about all the women who'd been with William Shatner. And it took him a minute to be like, and at first he goes, he just played Captain Kirk. And I was like, yes, I know that. Yes, I'm aware. But anyway, it was just pretty funny.
you
And
know,
but yeah.
in
Uh,
Miss Congeniality when he's like, she's got style, she's got grace, his singing style, which is very just talking,
mhm.
cracks
Oh
me up.
yes.
Cracks me up
That's
every
one of my
time.
favorite lines from that is when it was like, what's your favorite
Favorite date.
date?
Describe your favorite date.
Describe your
April
favorite.
15th, because it's not too
Yeah,
hot and it's not too cold. All you
it's
need is a
perfect.
light sweater.
Light jacket. Yes. Anyway, um,
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. But
it's
anyway, oh, now I'm gonna have to
hilarious.
go watch
But
that
anyway,
show. But
yes,
anyway, yeah. So yeah, it was funny. So I keep telling people I'm coming out of the land of the living because I had Captain Kirk wake me up and tell me I'm not a zombie last night.
you're not a zombie. You're not a zombie. Zombies might be real, but you are not
I'm
one.
not a zombie.
You're not one. That's
Yeah,
great.
it's so
Oh
good.
my goodness.
Anyway, oh, it's crazy. But
Oh,
anyway, so yeah, I'm very excited to be here. Like I said, I've had kind of I've had a couple weeks. My kid is married now.
But
usually spring topics on Troy. So Troy, it's your turn to spring one on me. Let's go. Have at it.
okay, so let me give you just a little bit of background on this. And part of this
Okay.
is because I've been talking, as you know, I've been talking to Michael Evans, who's our
Hmm.
Creator Wood guy that we interviewed a few weeks ago.
Hmm.
And then he did a summit this past Sunday about Creator Wood and like
Right.
some, in part, like how it works and how to use it, but in part the business side of it. And
Okay.
this is more of a business related writing topic. And I know we talked about um doing some craft stuff, and we will.
Yeah.
But anyway, one of the things that he was talking about that really hit me, because the other thing that's been hitting me is I've seen this trend going on right now of the lock-in. And what it is we get in this mode like towards the fall and the end of the year that
Yeah.
oh, the year is pretty much over. Now we've got an entire quarter left of the year, but we're like, the year is pretty much over. You know, if I haven't accomplished my goals so far this year, I haven't made any progress towards them. Well, that's too bad. I'll try again next year. And so we're taking this 3 month chunk and we're kind of tossing it to the wind. And at the same time, in the writing community, we've had this loss of NaNoWriMo, right? And
Hmm.
there's some people that are trying to start similar things to what NaNoWriMo was. But what it really was about was taking this time in a really challenging time of the year and writing a novel in a month anyway,
Hmm.
even though it was challenging and even though it was difficult. And some people loved it and some people did not, right? And then the organization itself had its own issues. But one of the things that Michael was talking about is one of the things that obviously, in order for Creator Wood or any of these things to work, is we have to prove that, first of all, that authors want to make movies of their work and other people want to make AI generated movies of their work, right? That's the first step. Somebody has to want to do this. There are enough people floating around that want to do this, want to make this a reality, that seems like it works. But the other side of the business is that people have to be willing to pay to watch those, right? Because they cost money to make. So there has to be people that are paid to watch those. And so he was talking about the business side of this and the marketing side of it, which applies directly to books and directly to all kinds of things. And what it is understanding the difference between strategy and tactics. And I talk about this a lot. I think people miss it a lot. But I think this is a good time of year and a good thing to talk about is strategy versus tactics. Because when we talk about the NaNoWriMo was all about the tactics. How
Hmm.
many words do you have to write a day? Here's some things you can do to plan ahead, plan your meals, plan extra days to boost up your count so that your word count, so that when holidays and people come into town, you can still make your goal of writing this by the end of the month, right? But there wasn't necessarily an overall strategy. Like, what does it mean when you win Nano? Well, I wrote 50,000 words in November. Awesome. What now? You
So
know,
what you're
what's
talking about is
next?
like when it's almost like this, what we kind of talk about when we talk about marketing versus advertising. What we're doing is we're talking about the
Yes,
big picture versus the little processes that go into making that ultimate strategy come to fruition. So you're talking about the
right.
tactics that we use that to actually make things happen, and those little everyday brushing your teeth to keep your
Things that
teeth
you have to do.
healthy, right? Like, but the strategy is keeping my teeth healthy because I want to make sure that I can have teeth in my old age and eat a steak. So in order to
Right,
make that happen, I keep my teeth brushed every day, right? So that's the
right.
tactic versus the strategy.
Because the strategy is the big overall goal. So, like
Mm-hmm.
if I start planning the lock in, the last part of 2025, then
Mm-hmm.
I go, what would make on December 31st, the last quarter of 2025, what would make that a win for me?
Right. Gotcha. Okay.
And then I implement things between now and that time to actually accomplish that win,
So
right?
before with NaNoWriMo, that was kind of like a thing for authors to kind of focus on and actually go out of that year feeling like I've done at least that. Like if
Hmm.
nothing else, if everything fell apart, at least I got a novel done in November. What I'm
Right.
wondering is like, should we be like reinstituting something like that, or should this be an individual basis? Like, how do you, how, like, I know how I want to probably do this, but as author community, how would you best describe, um like, is this an individual author goal that everybody like, okay, yeah, let's do another NaNoWriMo? Or should, like, what was Michael like, kind of, was Michael talking about it in that kind of context, or what was
Well,
he kind of
so what he
thinking?
was talking about is your overall, like, why would you take your book and turn it into an AI generated movie?
Mm-hmm.
What's your goal in doing
Mm-hmm.
that? Now, if that goal is to sell a bunch of videos and movies and stuff like that, um, then that's okay in some ways, but you can't really control that goal. The reason is he was talking about strategy is goes, where does this fit in your overall plan?
Oh,
So I'm
gotcha.
going to write more books and I'm going to sell more books, right? That's a plan,
Well,
sort of,
that's a
but that
strategy, or like a,
doesn't
oh,
like
actually, that's not even a strategy. That's
not
more
even a
like a, just
strategy
a
because
goal.
it doesn't say what's the ultimate goal.
Right,
So
right.
like so there's different strategies for different parts of your writing career. So for the writing part of it, you can say, well, next year I want to write or I want to publish 6 novels. It's
Mm-hmm.
one
That's
every
a
two
lot.
months.
Well,
That's an ambitious schedule, right? But if you're a full-time author and you have the team in place and have the ability to do so, that's a doable
yeah.
goal, right? But that's the strategy. I want to write 6 books. That's a strategy for that part of your business. But the reason it's the overall part of your business that matters is you say, well, I want to grow my business to 6 figures next year.
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to do that? Well, part of it is I'm going to produce more content to sell. So I'm going to write 6 books next year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, write and publish 6 books next year. Boom, that's a part of that overall strategy. But the strategy of reaching 7 figures means of those 6 books, I'm also going to make 4 AI generated movies. And I'm going to create audiobooks of all of them.
Right.
And
To give you all those multiple streams of
I'm going
income
to start
and so
selling
on.
merchandise on my
Gotcha.
website.
Yeah,
I'm going
good.
to focus my advertising and marketing on direct sales rather than retail sales,
Right.
right? So those are all tactics that are part of this overall strategy to, grow my business 20%, right?
Gotcha.
But
Mm-hmm.
I think as authors, what happens is we go to conferences and you focus on the guy up front's talking about Facebook ads, and you're like, all right, I need to run Facebook ads. So I'm going to run Facebook ads. And you don't even think about which books you're going to run Facebook ads to at which times of the year or anything like that. You start running some Facebook ads and you go, well, this really isn't working for me. And the reason is you don't have an overall Facebook ad strategy because you don't know where that fits in the rest of your business, of your author business. And one of the things, I mean, and I find myself doing this because when I first started out, I had a business plan, I had a 5 year plan, I had everything lined out. I did my 5 year plan in 3 years. It was awesome, right? But the reason I was able to do that was I had a strategy, an overall strategy that was outlined in that plan. And so I could check everything that came in the door. Like, does that fit that strategy?
Right.
If it doesn't, then it's a distraction that needs to go away for right now,
Right.
unless I can make it into part of that overall strategy. And so you go, well, maybe making AI films is not the answer for you because
Right.
it doesn't fit your strategy. If you don't
Right.
have a marketing and advertising strategy that includes that as part of it, then you're going to spend a lot of money and you're not going to get a lot of money back.
Well, one of the things that I noticed a lot of authors do, and they come into these business and they think, okay, well, someone, like you said, it's almost like the guy at the front of the room. It's Google, it's a
Mhm.
blog, it's a YouTube video, it's something that they saw, that they get this idea in their head that they have to do it that way. One lady in particular I can point out, just in one of my, I've talked to her over the course of a year. And over that course of the year, when she first came into my world, she kind of almost head butted me with the idea that she knew everything that there was to know. She'd already published about 6 books, and I was like, well, then why are you calling me? Because it was very kind of abrupt and almost coarse, the way she talked to me and the way she asked
Hmm.
questions. And when I gave her answers, she was constantly not objecting, but she was almost like contradicting me with old blogs that she had read. And I remember one time having a conversation with her, and I was explaining to her that she needed to employ a strategy of going wide because she had a large enough inventory that she didn't need to be exclusive to Amazon. And we were talking about how to make her do that so she can reach a wider audience and actually get more royalties out of her readers, because as it was, she was staying exclusive to Amazon, and she wasn't getting very good royalties because, as it is there, you sell to that audience, and then you don't sell the same book over and over and over again unless people are talking and leaving reviews. And she just wasn't busting out of her demographic. And so we were trying to talk about ways to do that. And she had read a blog that said something about going to KDP and doing KDP Select, right? And of course, this is still a strategy that works for some people, where if
Hmm.
you're in a particular genre, or if you're a new and upcoming author and you have never published a book before, KDP Select might be valuable to you to go exclusive with your ebook that first 90 days, but it only works and is only good for you if you utilize the promotions that they have within that program.
Hmm.
And if you just open the book, if you just set up the book and then just let it sit, that's not a very good strategy for increasing your
No.
sales, because what you're doing is you're not using the tactics within KDP to run promotions and ads and whatever, and to get
Hmm.
people to notice your book. So therein lies the rub, right? Like it's all about, like, what are you comfortable doing? What do you want to spend your time doing? And it was funny that I was constantly headbutting with this woman, and over a year, I mean, she kept fighting with me and fighting with me and fighting with me. She finally just, at the end of the year, told me that everything that I had told her was a lie, because she had again come across another blog that had told her that being exclusive with her audiobooks was the only way to go. And what's so funny and
Oof.
tragic about that is that that came out long before this whole scandal with the Audible doing what they're doing to jerk over their authors and doing their whole new payouts inside of their system, and the way that they've got their new pools set up, for everything for payouts. So it's really kind of sad, because she was slamming the door on the idea that she needed to continue to learn and grow and understand things, and that things shift
Hmm.
and change. And again, you're talking about strategies and tactics. And I think that one of the good things that people should always do is probably quarterly reassess where they're at and what's working and what's not working, and decide if they need to
Hmm.
pivot or not. That is a good strategy to have as an author, to say, okay, what tactics are working and which ones aren't? This is my strategy. This is my long-term goal. Are these things that I've been doing so far working? And I'm going into the new year, this last little hoorah coming out of the gate. Is it all about writing another book? Is it about, like you said,
Hmm.
publish or creating something, creating a video, creating some merchandise to put on your website? Is it about putting a lead magnet into your ebooks? Is it about running an ad campaign on TikTok? Like, what is it you want to do at this last little bit, this last little hoorah at the end of the
Right.
quarter? So
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
I think that
because
that's a very good point.
your overall strategy doesn't have to change that much,
No,
but the tactics change
always,
pretty constantly.
always.
And it's, like right now, like even though the ByteDance thing has supposedly been somewhat settled and TikTok, like, well, looks like it'll stay, it's
Hmm.
going to be a different TikTok than it is now.
Right,
Right. There's going to be some changes, some internal and external changes that we're
right,
going to see. Right. So what's been working on TikTok may or may not work as well on TikTok going forward. Okay,
right.
that's fine,
But that's the
right?
way it
But
always works. I mean,
that doesn't affect my overall strategy of being present on that platform, trying to reach influencers, et
right.
cetera, et cetera. that doesn't affect that overall strategy, but it does affect which tactics I use to do that, to become a part
Exactly.
of book talk or whatever. So I think that there's some, it's just, because the strategy overall, the strategy of publishing has not changed that much.
No, no,
When I
publishing,
say everything with publishing has
but
changed
there
since
are diff
2009, it has, but there are different, that's because there's different tactics, not because the overall goal
yeah,
of being an
not
author has
to
changed.
not shake up the analogy so much, but it's one of the things, the way I describe it to my clients is it's a really big cogged machine. At the end of that, multiple, your cogged machine is like your end goal, and your products purpose and what you're hoping to accomplish is at the end of that machine. And what you need to understand is that those cogs are interchangeable. They get rusty, they break. Google changing its algorithm and ad campaign 10 years ago completely changed the way authors do ads.
Hmm.
Amazon changing its algorithm all the time changes the way we do ads within the Amazon platform. Facebook ads are different. Like everything's like all of that shifts and change because we are fickle human beings, and we are constantly, as much as we all say we
Uh,
hate change, we actually thrive in change. We live and die for change. And the fact remains that if we don't change, we die. And all these companies know that. So that's why they change. That's why we have 4 million different flavors of Dr. Pepper, folks, because sometimes we just want a cream soda. Like, but Dr. Pepper doesn't want us to stop drinking their products. So what do? They give us cream soda and coconut cream and cherry something, something, like slap a different label on.
yeah.
But that's why you have to, as an author, reevaluate your plan every so often. I think that quarterly is an awesome goal, to like set
Hmm.
a calendar, like I need to reassess this
Well,
plan, the strategy tactic that I've been
yeah,
using.
at least to evaluate how
Yeah.
things are going. That
Hmm.
may not mean that you want to make major changes
No.
quarter to quarter. Also, because sometimes making major changes is a mistake.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
because you're like, oh, this hasn't been working this last quarter. Well, hey, that last quarter was quarter three over the summer.
Right.
And moms who are reading your books are all dealing with their kids and going on vacation and all that stuff. And all of a sudden, 1st of September hits, and you're like, oh, that thing I was doing back in May started working again.
Yeah.
Yeah, because your readership is now back and
Right.
re-engaged from the summer read
Well, and
time.
that's
And
just
there
it.
are
Like,
summer read strategies
that's
too,
just
but I
it,
mean,
right? Like, yeah,
you
you're
know,
having summer read strategies, you have winter, like it's like, I think that the biggest mistake authors make is assuming that if they employ a certain strategy or tactic um into their business plan and then leave it alone for too long without understanding or realize, looking at the analytics of that strategy, or, realizing what if that tactic is actually going to knock them off their butts. Sometimes I think
mhm,
authors, what's really funny to me is when authors come to me and they say, I really want to utilize social media. And I'm like, okay, well, what platforms are you already on? Well, I don't do anything but Facebook. Okay. Have you ever been on Instagram? No, I don't know anything about it. Have you ever been on TikTok? No, I have no idea what that is. Okay. You should probably go hang out on those places and see what they do and what they talk about and how they operate before deciding whether or not that's a good fit for you. Because, in all
mhm,
honesty, if it's not something you want to stick with or it's something that irritates the crap out of you, why would you keep doing it? And that's the
mhm,
same with every single thing that you do. If you are an author who says, "Yeah, in the month of November, I'm going to write 50,000 words." But by the end of November, you want to murder your family because you can't hit that goal and you're so disappointed in yourself and your life, you've decided to take up drinking during the day, you know maybe that wasn't a great
Yeah.
strategy for you.
Well, yeah, I mean, we talked in one of our things this year about slowing down, right?
Right.
Slowing down. And I don't mean, so, I mean, there's some merit to just slowing down in general, but there's some time when you just need to slow down on, like, say, take a Sunday, right? And
Right.
don't write your morning words or whatever, but take your Sunday and back out from your writing thing and let's look at this overall strategy again. And what is my real overall strategy? Well, I want to reach more readers with my book. I want them to read and buy my work, buy
Mm-hmm.
and read my work, whatever order you want to put that in, right?
Right.
Very simple, simplistic statement of the strategy of 90% of the authors in the world. Because whatever other motives are behind that, the real end goal that they want is more people read my stuff, more people buy my stuff. So I'm reaching more people with whatever message I'm trying to put out there, or just whatever stories I'm trying to throw out in the world.
Right.
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 That's my overall goal. That's what I want to do. So every now and then you take a Sunday and you back out and you say, okay, is my spending, I can look on my Apple phone and I spent 5 hours a day on my phone and three of that was on Facebook. Is
Mm-hmm.
that serving my overall strategy? Because
Right.
the answer is probably not, because then you have to do things of analytics like how many of my sales actually came from an organic link on Facebook that wasn't an ad or a boosted post. Ooh, maybe that 3 hours a day on Facebook is not serving me in any way at all
Exactly.
because I'm getting a sale here and there. So I'm getting 3.99 here and there
Free
from
99 or 3.99?
3.99, like $3.99 every now and then from somebody who clicks on one of my organic posts. So maybe spending all that time there is not the right
Right.
answer, right? Maybe I need to pivot, maybe to another platform. Maybe I need to run
Or
more ads or different ads.
or yeah, look
So
at a different audience. Like maybe your
yeah,
audience is the one that's like
maybe
not
your
doing.
audience is
Yeah.
off. Because you have a bunch of, you do the typical newbie author thing. If you go on Facebook and you follow a whole bunch of authors
Oh,
and you become friends with a whole bunch of authors. And listen, we've all been there, we've all done that. That's the way it works, right? Is we try to find people that are like us, our tribe, not realizing that you're not going to sell a lot of books
to
to
a lot
authors
of
unless you write
authors.
books for authors, so
Right.
specifically for authors, right? You're just not going to sell a lot of books that way. Okay, then why are you doing it and throwing so much time into it? It's great to build your author network to an extent, right? But eventually, really what you want is to build your reader network. Where are you going to find them? How are you going to do that?
Right.
Well, that's a wider again, that's a different part of your strategy. So you have to back out and look at it and go, what
Look at
am I
your
doing?
demographic, look at
What
your
am I doing on
who's
TikTok?
yeah, what kind of people
You
are
know?
reading your book, what kind of people like your genre. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the more information you can get, and this is why direct sales and stuff like that is a great part, a great tactic that's a part of your strategy, is because you
Mm-hmm.
get more information about the people who are actually buying
Buying
your
your
books,
books. Mm-hmm.
right? So, okay, awesome. You're getting data from those people. That's what you want. That's incredible, right? That's really great. But you have to step back and look at like how much time am I spending in order to do that?
Right.
Okay, is it worth this amount of time? Well, the answer in a lot of cases is probably not, or that you need to change some of your tactics, right? And we're all guilty of keeping with the same tactic for way too long because, well, it's
Well,
comfortable,
you're always
you
and well,
know?
it's not just comfortable. I think a lot of times we're sitting there going, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. And what if I change this tactic or this strategy and just before it takes off? Like, what
Hmm.
if I change too early? Like, and we always hold out a little bit longer. It was
Hmm.
so funny. I have this amazing cousin. He's so cute. He came up for this my son's wedding and the funeral. It was definitely like four weddings and a funeral. I'm so tired. That's part of my problem right now is just seeing so many people. But emotionally it was a ride. But he came up and I liked picking on him a little bit because he's just kind of this individual who's amazingly talented and has a really, there's a lot of things that are going well for him, but he tends to look at the, oh, I lack in this area, this area, this area, this area. Well, he had a girlfriend that just broke up with him a week before they got down here. And this boy,
Oh,
he was kind of like, he's up here with his family, and we're all, trying to have a good time at a funeral, which, yeah, that's my family. We're trying to have a good time at this brisket barbecue afterward. And my cousin's trying to be happy, but he is miserable because he's just broke up with his girlfriend. Well, we get home and he is employing these tactics to try and win her back. And
oh,
I am sitting there looking at him going, and by the way, this is a very, very not, he doesn't look anything like me. He's a very handsome, handsome man. And I get lost in his eyes. Like, he is just beautiful and deep. His dimples are deeper than the craters of the moon. Like, he's just beautiful. And he's sitting there and he's talking about this woman who's just absolutely perfect in every way, except that she tells him that she doesn't get enough money from him because by the way, this is a Hollywood stuntman. He doesn't give her enough
mhm,
money. Doesn't let her do whatever the heck she wants. She has nothing wrong with her, and he doesn't fix all of his problems, including the fact that he gets mad at her once in a while when she talks about how she's not cheating on him with her ex, but she's going to keep talking to him. So here, like, so
oh,
there's these things, right? But then there's this man who's sitting there going, what do I do? And he's asking me for these tactics. He's asking me for these strategies. Like, what do I do to get her back? And I said, I think you should shift your strategy. And instead of thinking, what do I do to get this woman back? That maybe you should be going, what do I do to not capture another loser like this woman? Right? Like,
hmm.
there's your you've got the wrong goal here. And he
Yeah. Well,
and that's the thing I think a lot of authors do is they come in, they Google the universe and say, well, I want to be a bestseller. But what's really funny is when I get to the core of that question, like, why do you want to be a bestseller? They don't know. And it has nothing to do with being a bestseller,
no.
actually. It has nothing to do with being on a bestseller list. So I'm going to challenge every author, all five of you, to listen to this thing that I'm about to say. And that is, why? Like, ask yourself, why is this my goal? Because again, like my cousin, he just wants to fall in love and be with somebody who will go fishing and hunting with him once in a while.
Hmm.
He wants to be with a woman who's satisfied and independent enough that when he goes on a movie job, that she either can fly out to meet him every so often when he's in the middle of his break, having a break or something, or that she's fine waiting for him until he comes home and trusts him that he's not going to cheat on her. Because, like, he wouldn't, he's just a loyal individual. But what I mean is, like, having a woman that's
Hmm.
like, and that is a different strategy. And I had to explain to him, I said, babe, you may have to switch your search parameters from bars to somewhere else because and the same thing is with
Yeah.
books, like we were just talking about, like maybe you need to switch who your audience is. Good example of
Yeah.
this, to bring it back into the book world, is that I was just talking to a client and we were talking about their genre, and she thought she was in the YA genre, but her protagonist is 18 and her love interest is 25. And I
Mhm.
and I looked at her and I said, that's not a YA.
That's
And
not YA.
she says, well, it is because it's clean. And I said, no, YA, it has nothing to do with the fact that it's clean. It has to do with the age of your protagonist. And your protagonist is on the
Mhm.
edge or the cusp of the YA genre. And she has a love interest that's way out of it. I said, so you are
Yeah.
actually a new adult novel. You are
I
an,
was going to say this is actually new adult.
yeah. And she was
Yeah.
like, I don't know anything about new adult. And I was like, well, who's telling you about you are a YA? She says, my editor. Now I'm an editor and she hasn't hired me. I tried to swallow that fact that she hasn't hired me as her editor. It's okay. I'm not everybody's editor. I put my ego in my pocket and then I said, why are you not hiring me? No, that's not what I said. I actually asked her, I was like, does your editor know about the NA category? Because it's not really a genre. It's actually more like an
No,
overarching
it's
category.
yeah.
So, so I said, does she know anything about it? And she says, well, I don't think she knows about it. And she goes, I don't know anything about it. Aren't they dirty books? And I'm like, no.
Oh
So that's the thing
no.
about that's the thing about understanding where you're hunting for your readers. I think that
Hmm.
like my cousin, he's hunting in the wrong place. You've got to remember as an author that when you're looking at your overarching goals, that understanding the tactics and the details is very important because you could be thinking, well, I want to reach this 35-year-old woman who reads YA, except that I'm selling her an NA. And what happens is that 35-year-old YA reader is going to pick up that NA and go, this isn't a YA. I'm not reading about a 16-year-old. I'm reading about a name. I'm reading about a 20 year
Right. Well, and it's interesting because okay, so the other thing that this affects is your branding.
Right.
Your strategy impacts your branding
Right.
because, like, so the client we're working with, Elaine, that I worked on her book, now
Yeah.
I'm working on book two, which I'm really so excited about. But anyway, I saw her first cover,
Oh,
right?
wonderful. Hmm.
Historical, it's a
Oh, was
historical,
it
but a
that one
women's
that
fiction.
Tara did for her?
Yes.
Isn't that
Oh,
beautiful?
it's beautiful and it's incredible. But here's
But
the point of that is that is a great cover for her genre and her book. It's not something I ever would have even conceptualized to
Mhm.
create because I'm a mystery and thriller author.
Mhm.
If I put that cover on one of my books, my readers are not going to go, that's beautiful. I want to read a Troy Lambert book. No, because it doesn't fit my genre and doesn't fit my branding
Right.
at all. Right. But so you as an author, like even this NA, the difference between new adult and YA covers is different. It impacts your strategy, overall strategy impacts everything that you do. If you're going to go out and write in a completely different genre, then you need to change your branding to be appropriate to that genre.
It's also interesting. I'm going to point this out, and those of you who are watching instead of just listening on the podcast, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show something here that's kind of interesting. But the Hunger Games is interesting. She first put out these books they were pretty basic covers, and they just had the
Hmm.
Mockingjay in a different, well, as this this bird in a
The
different
pin, yeah.
pose in each book, right? And she had them color coordinated. So her first book was, black, the second one was blue, and then the third one was red, right? And the Mockingjay
Hmm.
shows up on each one and they have these symbols. Anyway, it just this was very dystopian, very YA at the time that she published these books. I'm a collector. I love these covers, right? They're very simplistic and awesome. What's amazing though is that just since she's started launching like prequels and things like that, and now she's got these different covers that are way different coming out, and they are equally beautiful. This is one of her prequels, the Ballad of the Songbird and the Snakes, right? Which I absolutely love, but it doesn't match my covers. And what's really interesting to me is these are the same kinds of books. She's redone these covers in this new style. She's probably reigniting or reattracting a different genre or a different
Hmm.
demographic of
A
reader
new
because,
audience.
right, because they're seeing visually something different. That works as a strategy. That works as a way to
Oh,
attract more, is to update covers that might be a little more like the shift in our like I said, we're fickle humans. We like to add pepper to our dishes a little bit different. Like
hmm,
you might want somebody who wants more garlic in their story, so you change the way that the cover looks. So what I'm saying
hmm.
is that me as a reader of these books, who's a collector, lovely Suzanne has done an amazing, wonderful thing for me. Is she's gone ahead and she's released her new covers with the same style. So they match on
Mhm.
my, right? They match on my
Mhm.
shelf. But I still am an appreciator of her other covers as well. These pretty colorful covers.
Right.
So what I'm saying is like the tactic to attract new customers or new readers might be to change your covers for, because they're stagnant or
Well,
they're
and
stale.
over time,
And over time.
too,
Mhm.
different covers come into style for different genres. So
Right.
while new readers are coming in to find your work, they might find those old covers are not appealing,
Right.
right? Or your branding has evolved and your branding has changed. So it's time to update your covers to match that
What
branding,
I like about you
right?
too about covers is the fun thing, another fun thing and another fun tactic to, again, up some sales and get some more readers is to do that Kickstarter campaign like you're doing with
Kickstarter
a
only
different,
covers.
yeah, with like you have
Yeah,
your own
limited
special
edition
edition, little
covers,
limited edition covers.
which
It's oh,
appeals to the collectors,
right,
that appeals to the collector fans that you may have that say,
right.
hey, I really want this thing
It may not
that you
be
have.
something that is going to appeal to the masses. That might be just a different strategy to attract those super fans.
Hmm.
So, just keep in mind that like there's no one way. There's no one like this is the way, Mandalorian
No,
style.
no, no,
Like there
no.
is multiple ways
Well, yeah,
to
because
tackle and eat
and
an elephant.
here's part of the why behind that is your strategy, even though all of our strategies are very similar in our end goal, finding more readers, selling more books, yada, 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 yada.
Mhm.
The true strategy of like some of the tactic behind that's what I would call more evergreen
Oh, right,
tactics
right, right.
is understanding your genre,
Mhm.
understanding your audience, understanding the reader base that you have now, understanding where to find those new readers and bring them into your ecosystem
Right.
and all of those type of things, right? So part of that is still under the umbrella of that strategy, but everybody's going to have a different evergreen tactic and feel to their
Right.
strategy, because in order to accomplish different strategies in different genres and different areas, you're going to have to do different things. So
Exactly.
you're going to have different goals and different paths and different, like a difference in your approach to achieve that final strategy, that final goal. And like I say, that's gonna, when you've been in the game as long as I have, and a lot of the friends that I have been, like you had to change your strategy a few times. You've had to change your branding. You've had to change those things, right? You've had to, because that's the nature of the everything changes in the game. So you have to change with that. So it's not only a matter of changing tactic, but sometimes it's a matter of changing those evergreen tactics and going, okay, well, now thriller covers look like this. So I need my thriller covers from the past to look like this one so that they will actually sell. I need to run different ads to different people so that they'll actually sell. So it's the overall strategies are big picture things. And yeah, those need to be something that you're aware of. But be aware that even the long-term tactics underneath there are going to change as well based on that strategy, you know. Because your strategy may have been get, like you were talking about that one client of yours, get a whole bunch of readers on KU. And so I get a bunch of page reads as well as sales, and that's what's driving my income. Well, that works for some genres, not so much, but it does work for some genres. Okay, we'll evaluate whether that's a good tactic for you to achieve your overall strategy and your overall goals. And if it is, awesome. And oh, a word of caution here that I almost forgot to mention. I had a friend of mine who's a really great person, great author. They went to Chat GPT and said, hey, they fed in a bunch of information about their business and said, hey, what should I do to go from where I am now to being a six-figure author next year? Right. And Chat GPT gave them some interesting advice.
What did
The
it
problem
say?
was, so she had asked specific questions like, should I stay in this genre or should I branch out from this niche? Should I be Kindle Unlimited or should I go wide? Should I do this or do that? Right. And it was interesting because Chat GPT doesn't know the answers to those
Actually, that would
questions,
probably
right?
be a better answer. That would probably have been a better question for perplexity.
Probably for perplexity, or well, there's ways you could do an agentic model
Hmm.
with Chat GPT. But the problem is she was asking AI questions that AI is not good at answering. AI
Hmm.
is good at doing analysis, so it can analyze books in your genre and determine what's the percentage of books in your genre that are getting KU reads as well as sales. And so, is that a good idea for your particular genre to stay all in KU, right? It can do that because it can analyze data, but it can't analyze what would happen if you switched genres
You know what's really
or
interesting to me
expanded
though?
and added a second genre in,
You
right?
said
You
you
know what I mean?
say I'm going to add caution to your caution because I'm going to up your caution. I take your
Up my
caution and
caution with a
I
caution.
take your caution and I raise it to caution.
Raise, raise
Um,
a caution.
I raise it to
Yes,
caution. So here's what I noticed recently with chat. Um, it's lazy. And I can't think of another
it
word
is.
for it. It's lazy. So, one of the things that I did recently is I took a manuscript and I wanted to see if there was a plot hole that I was missing in the plot of this manuscript. And that was specifically what I was. I was like, I knew because I'd read the manuscript. I knew there was something missing, and I wanted to know about where chat thought that that plot hole was like existed so that I can pinpoint it and kind of go back and look at that chapter and see if that's in fact where the hole and the problem is. And so I threw that in there and I was like, where's this hole? And it literally did an analysis. And I like redid my prompt a couple times to say, read the whole manuscript. I'm looking specifically for this issue with this character and this arc. It completely, like 4 or 5 different times, skipped that whole character scene and like was trying to dig or create. It almost felt like it was creating an arc that didn't
Hmm.
exist. And it was telling me in this chapter where this thing happened, you should look at this and this and this. And that never even happened in the manuscript.
Hmm. Well, so here's part of the issue is that chat specifically is generative,
Yep.
and that's part of the definition of it. So
Right.
when it comes to an analyzing numbers and things like that, where like there is a chunk of data that it's going to pull from. Chat can be very good at that, but chat isn't always necessarily the answer for that. There's other
No.
things that are better answers for that,
So that's my
including.
caution.
So here's a tactic, and I'm actually doing a video on this, hopefully sometime this week, um, about using Notebook LM to create your own language model of your books
Oh,
and your
yeah.
stories
Yeah.
so that you can ask it specific information that it's only drawing from that. It's not making things up and it's not going out into the
Into
wide
the
web to look at
open
things,
AI. Yeah.
and into the open AI stuff. Now, the other part with OpenAI is sometimes you can give it instructions not to hallucinate and to take its time
Yeah. And
and
that's
not to
what,
answer until it reads the whole manuscript.
yeah.
But it doesn't always work.
Hmm.
And this is because AI has flaws. So here's the thing, don't get lazy with your business and rely on
Right.
AI. So, what I'd recommend to you, if you really are struggling with your business strategy, is sit down and do what you can yourself and then consult with someone. Now, that someone can be a paid consultant. You could pay Stacey or I or any number of people to sit down with you and analyze your author business and say, hey, man, this is things that are working. These are things that are not. Here's some things you might want to consider, and we can do that. Or you can do it with one of your peers. who's a successful author, who's maybe moving or at least is where you want to be or moving that direction. That's really good. And
Mm-hmm.
you can talk to that person and talk to them and be open and honest with them with your numbers and the things
Right.
that are happening in your business and say, hey, where do you think I can improve? Right?
I
Because,
also want to point out that you should be asking somebody who has experience. I was like
mhm,
a good story that I'll tack onto this is my aunt was talking about recently, like I said, families in town. She was talking about the kids, the boys when they were growing up. And one of the things that she would notice is they would sit around the kitchen table and they would talk to each other about things, about life, about getting advice from each other and whatever. And these were all kids that had an absolutely zero life experience, but they would ask
mhm.
each other these questions. They would like, hey man, what do you think about this?
What
Hey
do
man,
you think about this
what do you think
idea?
about this? And they would be talking about health issues or whatever. By the way, my aunt has eons and degrees of like she's been an RN for like 452 years. And so she's sitting there listening to these kids talk about health concerns, but they're not asking her, the expert, they're asking each other. Like, hey man, I got this
Hmm.
mole. What do you think I should do about it? And like she's sitting there, like, what the hell? And these are kids with zero life experience. You know, it's so funny to me how people will do this in life. They'll be like, it's like me going to Google and asking, hey, I've got this headache. What do you think it means? And what is Google going to do? It's choose your own adventure to death, man. I like two choices and
Yeah.
I'm dead. I have cancer and I'm
Yeah.
dying. And
WebMD, you either need Tylenol or you
you're
have a
dead.
brain tumor.
You've got a
You
brain
have a brain
tumor.
tumor, you got 6 weeks, baby.
You can
Make the
amputate.
most of it.
Amputate,
Amputate.
like
Amputate
amputate
your
the
head.
arm. You know, like
Yeah.
that's your choice. Like it's and that's kind of what happens when these authors go to Google. They're like, okay, what do I do to fix this
Oh.
problem? And then they hear this big long explanation. This is what you should be doing. And again, we've got the same problem as when you go to a convention and you got this guy at the front of the room
Hmm.
and they're telling you to be successful, you have to do this. Okay, Tony Robbins, thanks. And then you walk home, you go home and you don't, it doesn't work that way. You can't get that machine to
Hmm.
work because you've got the wrong cog in your machine. I
Yeah.
think that what everybody should do again is go back to that, slow down. But also, I think the evaluation stage of this whole process is just like what Troy says is ask somebody, but ask somebody who has an idea or
Well,
two of
and
what's
one
happening.
on one.
Yeah,
Okay,
one on one.
there's something to be said for group coaching
Mm-hmm.
sometimes,
Right.
but when it comes to author businesses, I can put 8 romance authors in a mastermind group
Mm-hmm.
and come out with 8 different business plans that will work for each of
Each one of
those
them.
people,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because there is no single answer, even within your genre, within your thing. Even that person, what you need to do is consult with someone who is a coach or a consultant by trade,
And that they're
that they
practicing
know
and
how
they're
to do
practicing.
that,
Right.
right? If you're going to go to a book coach for help with your plot, you need to go to a book coach who helps people with plot,
Right. And
right?
know and read
Because
books.
that's where their expertise lies. If you're going to talk to someone about the writing business, what you need to talk to is someone who is doing the writing business, who is
Right.
doing it all the time, who is engaged in the publishing industry. Vincent Zandri comes to me all the time with all kinds of questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is he knows I'm plugged in because he knows that's my job,
Right.
right? So that I am more plugged into things than he is a lot of times, not because he's not smart, not because he hasn't been a
Oh
great
no, it
author
has
for
nothing to do with
years,
smart
but
guys.
it has to do with that his focus
Right.
is in another area
That's
entirely,
exactly right.
right? Its
Meet
focus is somewhere else.
you don't
It,
meet an orthopedic surgeon and talk to them about your dermatological needs. I don't go to a
yeah,
podiatrist and ask them about my eyeballs. It's 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 just that's their focus. It doesn't have
that's
anything
their
to do with the fact.
specialty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's about what they do and how involved they are in their thing. And this is one of the things that I love talking to about my clients, and this is why clients come to me particularly is because when I sit down with them, I'm like, you want to run an author business, but really you want to do is write your stories. And it's not
Hmm.
all these other all the little cogs. They're not interested in how each one of those works. They don't care what the copyright laws are. They just want to know that they're getting their copyright and why they're getting their copyright and how to get the copyright. They don't care why it's the way it
Yeah,
is.
it
They don't
doesn't
care about the
matter.
laws or the rulings, but they want to know who they're talking to, like myself, that I know why those are all happening and what those things are. They want to know that I know a lawyer, that if that things get complex, that I know somebody that they can go to that's even more specialized. They want to know
Right,
that they are plugged in that way. It's like Vincent. Vincent wants to do what he's good at and what he enjoys, and I want to do what I'm good at and what I enjoy, which is why I talk to Troy about plot all the time, because that man knows how to write plot, you know? So
right.
come
Well,
on, guys,
yeah, and like things
just
like
do your
so, like I
thing.
was talking to a client yesterday, and we're talking about setting up an email list,
Right,
right, and stuff like that. I'm going, well, at some point you need to verify your domain and have an email address that has your domain extension on it because
right.
of all the because of reasons. She's
Wait,
like,
I
I
think
didn't
I know who you're
understand.
talking about.
Yeah, she's
Somebody
like,
reached
I
out.
didn't understand that whole. She goes, I
Yeah,
didn't understand that whole conversation. I said, okay, let me back up a second then and explain to you not necessarily the why behind it, but the steps you need to take.
right,
And so she's like, okay, so I'll let you log into my host and make sure that works.
right,
Okay, I can do that for you, right? I just want you to understand what I'm doing so you don't think I'm doing something crazy that's like ripping you off or whatever.
right, right.
But I want you to understand what I'm doing. But basically, it's like she doesn't want to know that. And
Yeah,
then I ask specific questions like, do you want to send pretty emails or you just want to send information? I just
right.
want to send information. Okay, well, let's simplify your life then.
Yeah.
Let's make your life easier. Why? Because you don't need this. You don't need all this other stuff. What you need is this one simple thing that's going to do one simple task for
That's
you
why
that's
it's
going to be
always
easy
good
for you.
to
But
kind of
I
like
had to talk to
really,
her,
yeah.
because it's her mentality. What is she thinking? What does she want to do with an email list?
And
Right?
again, it's very much focused on you, the author, and your goals and project goals. And like I said before, and I'll reiterate this again, going to Google just to get general advice, or
Uh-huh.
hearing or reading a blog or going to a conference and getting advice that's not tailored to what your specific goals, needs, and wants are, it's really going to you're going to find you went down a train track that went, took you to Denver when you wanted to go to Las Vegas. It's a completely
Hmm.
different, like you have to know, yeah, you're on a train and yeah, you're going south or whatever, north or whatever you're trying, wherever you're coming from, but you might be on the wrong set of tracks. You might be going the wrong way.
Hmm.
So just keep that in mind, that when you're out there and you're asking for advice, that you aren't just asking, you're asking the right questions. It's not necessarily
Hmm.
just how do I sell books? It's how do I
Well,
sell so many books, or how do I sell books on this platform, or what, like how do I reach this,
yeah.
I want to speak at engagements, and how do I sell books at the back of the room? Like there's different
Hmm.
things that you could be doing. So it depends on what you're doing. You need to
Well,
talk to somebody
yeah.
who can help you to pull out that information so you get on the right train.
Well, right, because it's part of like what I say is you need to sit down with yourself first and determine what your goals are. What do you want this book to do for you? And you and I talk to clients about this a lot of like, what
Hmm.
do you want to do? Like, where do you want to go with this book? What do you want it to do?
Right.
What's your focus? What's your focus? What are your goals? Because that's going to impact in a big way your path to publication, what you do after publication, the marketing, all those different types of things that you do. Is like, what kind of a person are you? Do you like to be out there in front of people or you want to hide in your room all day?
Yeah.
Right?
That's another big
Because
aspect,
that's going
right?
to impact
That's going to change what you
what your
do.
strategy is and the tactics that you use to get there.
Hmm.
So, but it's just the thing that really hit me when Michael was talking about it this weekend was just to back up for a second from anything that you're doing and say, why am I doing this? And does it fit into my overall strategy? And if it doesn't, then maybe it's time to pause for a second. Do you want to be on the cutting edge of something and doing something really cool? because this, when we were talking about AI movies, it very much applies to this, right? Is do you want to be on the cutting edge? Things are not perfect yet. So your first few things are not going to be as awesome as they will be eventually, but you're going to
Mhm.
have to put them out there and sell them anyway. Are you willing to do that?
It
Or do you
kind of
want to say,
reminds
hey,
me.
man, I'm going to wait for 6 months and see how this pans out, and then I'll join you guys when you have some things figured out? And you're not, you might not want to be the alpha tester for a software. You might want to be after the beta is over and that thing's pretty solid,
Yeah. And
right?
what Troy's talking about here is like when you get into an entrepreneurial and kind of aspect, there's different phases of companies, like their buyers basically
Product.
of their product.
Yeah.
And one of them is new adopters or early adopters. And early
Early
adopters are
adopters.
those people that like come in at the very beginning before things are really, these are the guys that stand out in the front of the iPhone shops when they were dropping iPhone 2 because they said that they had new, and they waited 4 days for the purple phone, like came out and like, like they were the first ones to buy the fold in half phone from Samsung, like
Hmm.
before. Those are the early adopters, they're the ones that are willing to take the risk. Then there are those that are like those alphas. They come in and they're like, okay, I want to test this product out, make sure it works, kind of go through the glitches, give back feedback, taking a risk still. They're not early adopters, but they're still taking a little
Hmm.
bit of a risk.
But there's still a risk.
And then
Yeah.
there's the betas that come in a little bit later after they know all the glitches have been worked out. And they're kind of like, you know what? Now I feel like it's a safe investment because I'm willing to throw my money at that
Mhm.
too. I'm kind of, depending on the product, depending on what it is I'm talking about, most of the time with technology in specific, I'm usually like, I'm going to hang back. I'm going to hang back and I'm going to see how this works out. So, yeah, like I finally bought an iPhone when iPhone 16 came out.
Yeah.
like, that's not really what happened, but
Yeah.
like what I'm
I'm
what
an
I'm saying is like, you know
I'm
what?
an early adopter in that I
Yeah, I
had
know
the
you were in.
OG Apple
Yeah,
Watch, like the original
yeah.
first Apple Watch. You know what I mean? Like, and so, but the truth is, like, part of that is your personality
It's
too.
about
So
your
there's different things
personality.
you need to
Hmm.
do. Like, the course that I'm finally going to finish up here relatively soon is really about finding your own way to plot and plan
Hmm.
your stories because of how different everyone approaches it.
Right.
So you need to find your path, not someone else's.
Right.
And it's the same thing with this business aspect of the writing as well, is you have to find your path and your way and the things you're comfortable with and how risk averse you are. Right now, I would tell you that getting into making AI generated movies, which is one of the things that I'm exploring
Hmm.
pretty hard, is a high risk moment right
Right.
now. Like, we don't know if these will sell. We don't
Hmm.
know if people will watch them. We don't know if enough people will adopt this to make it worthwhile so that we all make a little money and don't lose a lot of money.
Right. Right.
Right. So we don't know any of that right now. So, right now, if you're a risk averse person, getting into AI movie making this is probably not the
You have to
time for
also
you.
consider your risk tolerance. You have to consider, okay, your
Hmm.
budget, like what are you willing to lose?
Oh,
Things like
yeah, that's
that.
the other thing is how much money do you have to
Yeah.
lose?
Right.
How much money can you afford to risk? Because you don't gamble with the rent money. We all know
No,
this,
we
right?
don't
So
publish with
don't.
rent money, guys.
Yeah, we don't.
Ever.
I've had people that have sold. I had a guy that sold his car
I know. I remember the
so I
story.
could ghostwrite his book for him. Now, it wasn't a terrible decision, and he didn't sell his primary driver, right? He sold this
Mhm.
other car that he had that was like, the sports car thing that he had been, I'm going to restore this someday, but it really hadn't happened. And he knew that if he sold that, he could get enough money that would cover his ghostwriting, right?
Mhm.
So it's not that he was this big risk taker and went, I'm just going to walk to work until this book sells enough to, please don't do that. Okay, please don't do that.
Yeah, because we
In
we have
fact,
there's lots
I
of
talked
horror
to a client
stories.
last week and I talked him out of having me do an audiobook for him for now.
Hmm.
And it was actually really funny because Holly listened to the conversation and she was like, "That was the most wonderful thing you could have done." And I said, "Yeah, because he's not ready yet for that level of risk. I can answer him that I would do it, but there's no edge to my risk window. It's like, just jump through the whole thing, right? But that's not where he's at, right?
Right.
So you have to look at that as far as from you personally and where you are. Like, what do you want to do with this? And how much do you have to risk? And how much do you have to spend? And what does that look like for you if you do? And the other thing you have to ask is where that fits in your strategy, right? And what would be a win if you do that? So if you make an audiobook, what's the win?
Right.
What is your win?
Yeah.
Because
And do you
if
have a
there's no way
strategy to
to
even,
achieve that win reasonably,
yeah.
then maybe you shouldn't do it,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
that's I guess the goal for all of this. And I think that's kind of the moral of the story here is just whenever you got a goal or a dream or a hope or a wish or whatever it is you're shooting for in this business, and you're going to employ some of these tactics to achieve strategies to achieve these goals, right? To make these strategies work and remember there's an investment of time, money, sanity all involved in this. So when you are sitting down to do these kinds of or make these kinds of decisions, I want you to please consider everything, all the variables, because it, a lot of times this business is disappointing. I think that there are a lot of people that assume that if you write a book, you're going to make a million. And that's not how this works. You have to put in a lot of time and effort for a book to even reach the audience that you want it to, because there's a bazillion books out there that are being published and that you have to sift to the top of the pile to get noticed. Build
Hmm.
smoke signals or whatever you have to do to get noticed. So my hope and wish is that when you're employing somebody else's tactics to achieve a strategy that you think fits in your machine, I would highly recommend checking with somebody that knows what's going on in the business. Check the age of the blog. If the blog, YouTube video, whatever is more than 6 months old, get a professional's opinion on that, because things like, guys, Amazon shut down KDP for like a couple of hours the other day to do an update. When they do that, it makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, because it makes me think, okay, they're shifting the algorithm again. And
Hmm.
they're not just changing the questions they ask you, but they're changing how they internally catalog books, how they're categorizing books, how they're setting things up. So it's very, very difficult for anybody in the business to stay on top of all of that and know when those things are happening, as opposed to an author who's maybe publishing 1, 2, 4 books a year, because those things are happening so often. So how are they supposed to
Hmm.
know? How are you supposed to know and stay on top of it unless you're talking to somebody who's a professional who's in there all the time? The reason I knew, guys, is because I literally was publishing 4 books that week, and I
Hmm.
was in KDP all week long. So I could see what was happening. And it was funny when it happened, because I was looking for a client's book. He says, I can't find my book. And I went in there to find it. And I had been shoved into the Indian store for India,
Hmm.
you know, and I was sitting there looking at how to buy his book in rupees or whatever their currency was. And it was like 4,600 rupees or whatever. And he was freaking out. Like, he was like, what do I do? And I'm like, they're just changing things. So you need to give it a few hours until they get
Just give
everything
it a minute
reset.
to happen.
But that's just it.
Yeah.
Unless I think he would have full on had to come apart if he didn't have me sitting there going, hey, go get a cheeseburger and chillax for a little bit because this is going to take a while
It's gonna be
and
okay.
it's not anything to worry about.
Yeah.
So, just if you have professionals in their background, they can help you with that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
It's just, it's funny, but it's not funny. You guys need to like understand that
Hmm.
these strategies and tactics, they're awesome. Reassessing your goals and pivoting is awesome. It's all fun, really, when you think about it, because it's all just a choose your own adventure and you're hoping that everything kind of works out
Hmm.
in the end. But like we were saying earlier, risk versus reward is very important. And the book business is a bit of a gamble. So when you get into it, don't take things so seriously that you are going to risk your relationships, your family, your friends, your livelihood because you're trying to sell a book.
Hmm.
It's just not worth it.
Well, another thing, and I think we'll take a deep dive on this soon, but my last point about this whole thing is to be realistic about your expectations. And we've talked about this before. But maybe in a few weeks or something, we'll do something about the power law because
Oh
there
yeah,
is a
yeah.
power law at play, and that no one can do anything about.
Right.
It is just the way that things work.
Right.
And there are some ways to make it work for you and make it so that you do well, even though you probably will not be in the top 1%
Mm-hmm.
of people in the Amazon store. So there are ways that you can still make things work for you, but it's very important to be realistic about how things work and the power law and how things actually go.
Yeah, we
So
should
when you're
talk about
setting your
that.
strategies and goals, be sure you're setting them with things you can control,
Right.
some
Exactly.
things that you can
Exactly.
control. But yeah, we'll talk about that
We'll
one
talk about
in
that in
depth
another
another
time.
time because
But
that's
yeah,
a
that's
that's
another
a
deep dive.
intricate deep dive discussion, but I think it's one that's really good for authors to have at least every now and then of just a reminder of what the numbers are
Yeah.
and the way that the publishing industry works and the way that the music industry works and the movie industry works and
Yep.
all of these creative industries we're trying to be a part of.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. I think that's a great point. So, just for everybody to thanks for sticking with us this long on our little meander around this tactics and strategies. Thanks to Michael Evans for contributing without knowing he's contributing. Thank you so much, sir. And then just a quick little shout out to a couple of things we have coming up. We've got we're in the talks right now to talk with Tara from Novelio, right? Did she get back with you
mhm.
yet?
I haven't seen a response yet,
Okay.
but I have been knee
Busy.
deep in
Yeah.
edits.
Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, me too. So we'll just wait and see how that's going to pan out. But we're working on getting her on the show so she can talk to us a little bit about that amazing platform. We also have your writers summit. Do you have tickets still available to that?
Yes, there are a few, and that is the writers retreat that's in Tahoe, October 22nd through 26th. If you have questions about that or anything like that, please email me. If money is the only thing stopping you from coming, also please message me or email me, and we will chat about that. Because I don't want you not to become able to come for that particular reason. Now,
Right.
again, you need to have the time off and a means of getting to Tahoe.
Right.
There's certain
Right.
things we can help you with, but there are certain things that we cannot
Right.
because we're not rich.
Right.
So,
Exactly. We're just writers.
but we're just,
We're just writers.
yeah,
Um, but
yeah.
anyway, but so yeah, so we'll put that link and that information in the description. I need to do that for last week's video. I completely forgot about that. And then we
Mm.
also need to bring up that we're going to be at Author Nation in November in Las Vegas. Super excited about that. So if you are going to come to Author Nation, look us up. We'll be wandering around. I will be laughing out loud ridiculously obnoxiously, and you'll find me probably in a crowd, and I will probably be like stalking Troy all around the convention too, so you can find Troy wherever my loud laugh is, probably most likely. So so we'll be there and hopefully having a lot of fun. And then finally, like Troy said, we're wrapping up the end of the year, so if you have goals or wishes, or you want to kind of go over your strategy and see if that's something that would work for you, hit us up. You can hit Troy at the Plot Abides, and you can find me at printtopro.com. And we are happy to help you. We both offer free consultations, and we're happy to help authors and get them on track. Yeah, so again, thanks for joining us for this week's episode, and if you could please like, subscribe, follow, we would appreciate it. Comment, tell us how crappy you wish we would have covered certain other things, and we would love to hear what those things are. We're happy to talk about those things as well. I will say that last week we got a great comment from somebody about the semicolon debate, and how semicolons, you
Oh,
made a comment about how in genre fiction that semicolons weren't necessary. So we really appreciate those comments and those things. So thanks everybody for writing in. Again, we'll talk to you guys next week, and we hope you have an amazing writing week. See you soon.
hi everyone.